Uh, all right. Hello, everybody. Um, Great. I think we should just try to get started because hopefully this isn't actually going to take up the whole hour. So we'll try to get you out a little bit earlier. And actually, at the start, I think I need to sort of start the session with a bit of a confession, which is I have not written a single slide of what I'm going to present to you. So basically, what I've done is I've nicked very, very good stuff from other people and combined it together because there's so much, I think, energy at the moment around better way to build brands, which is obviously brilliant, and how it's used. So I've nicked mainly from people like obviously Dave Benson, who came up with the narrative originally. A lot of it is from Miles Riseborough, who's been working with it, but also from our colleagues around NACE. So Joris's thoughts and idea are in this as well. So the session, basically, what it's going to be about is all about thinking about and reconnecting with better way to build brands, really going into what it was all about again and what's important about it, and then looking a little bit more towards how we can actually use better way to build brands with our clients. So what can we talk to them about and how can we actually make it applicable to them? I think one of the problems that we've always had with better way to build brands is that it's very, very high level. Those of you, do you all know the narrative, or have you sort of all, bit of shaking heads, most of you will have done. But as you will know, it's very high level, so we're actually taking it, or trying to take it down a level. And it's probably one of the most emotive things that you're going to talk to your clients about at one point or another, because if you sort of think about, if you're a client, if you're a Pepsi, a Nike, it doesn't even matter, it doesn't even need to be one of the big brands, this is your baby, right? This is what you're working for, this is how you make your money, this is why you can command a higher price for your product. So the better your brand, the more money you can sell it for, the better is your margins, your profits, all of that. So it's bloody important, which is why it is really, really important for us to really, first of all, show our understanding of it and really get why people are using it. This is the very, which we all know, it's got a little bit of a lag here, but the find the right people, tell great stories, and build stronger relationships are those three building blocks that we have around a better way to build brands. And the most important thing about this is that it's absolutely not new. And even more importantly, we did not come up with this. This is not Google, creating something really new for the world. This is at the very core of good brand building. And we haven't invented it. This is generally when you're talking to your clients, it's really important also that they get that we're not trying to tell them, by the way, here's Google, and let us tell you how you should do your brand building. Because chances are that you might be kicked out of the room for just being a very unbearable know-it-all. But where we can play within this, or where our right to play within this is very much the digital media technology. If you think about it, brand building is the same as it's always been. It hasn't changed. But what has really changed is the technology and that digital media that underpins this. That doesn't mean that we are the only brand solution for your clients, but it does mean that we've got something to tell them about. So whenever you're framing better way to build brands for your clients, do make sure that they understand that this is the area where you think you can really add value for them. So let's start out with finding the right people. So the first of our branding blocks. And I think actually, and this is Dave Benson's deck, as I said, I have written absolutely zip all for this. But this is actually a really good quote, because saying that today's tool set is a much sharper set of knives, it's actually exactly where we're coming from. What you're doing is great. People, your clients will be targeting with demographics, which is great, it's not wrong. None of this is wrong, but what we can do is actually add some extra knives. And our three knives sort of that we're adding here is data, context, and choice. So if you've seen David Benson's narrative on this, this is where we, where we can add a little bit extra. So let's think about data. So data is basically all about looking at cookies, looking at previous behavior, and then adapting what you're telling people, finding the right people, not according to demographics, which is sort of slightly, I don't even want to say old school, because it's still very relevant in some situations, but it's a different way of thinking about finding the right people, not depending on who they are, but what they've done before. Now, to actually get this data, you can use Google data, which is brilliant. But you can also use your client's data. So they have got their own stuff. So especially things like conversion data and all of that, they will have. But you can also use third-party data. But it's all about getting as much information as you can and changing that way of thinking from going, here is a pen portrait, if you want to think about it that way, which media agencies love to do, into something actually. I don't care if you are a cross-dressing 35 years old and you're interested in makeup. I would have never targeted you because you're 35 and you're male. But actually, if you want my product, you've got exactly the same almost right to buy it as anybody else. So it's almost turning that around a little bit. The second thing that we've said is context. Now, again, context is also nothing new. People have been doing that for ages, but they've been mainly doing it in print. So if you wanted to target people that were really interested in travel, you'd go to a travel magazine and you put your ad in there because you wanted to be associated with that content. It's all really well and good. It did have a little bit of limitations, which is stuff like travel magazines just don't come out every day, so they're probably like monthlies, so you can put your ad in every month. And there's also, the readership tends to be a little bit smaller, and you had to buy loads of different magazines, and it's all a little bit of, or was, still is, a little bit of a hassle. Doesn't matter, doesn't mean that it's necessarily wrong. But what digital can really do is deliver exactly that context on scale. So if you think about the different things that we can actually add into this mix. So if you stick with the travel example, you've got things like, travel sites, you can add travel videos, you can add travel communities, you can add travel mobile apps, and the list sort of keeps on going. So it's exactly the same principle, right? I want my brand to be seen in that context, and hence I'm sort of putting it together that way. Now, the final one, and probably the one that's most new and most interesting, is choice. So digital is probably the only medium that enables you to actually ask people if they want to engage with you before you're actually engaging with them. If you put your ad in a travel magazine, it's going to be in there, like it or lump it, basically. But if in digital, you can actually use this, and I think they've said this really, really nicely when he was talking about this invitation to connect, right? If you think about a skippable ad, all you're doing is, giving your audience an invitation. Would you like to actually see this? Would you like to connect? And if they click it, it's their choice. If they're not interested, they will skip it, and it's absolutely fine. So this is a great USP for digital, and obviously you only pay when you do that as well. So this is all the stuff that we had in Build Better Brands. So again, quite high level, but probably really interesting. So what I've done now, and the slides that are starting to look a little bit more like that, is because they're actually mainly from Miles's deck. So the Selena amazing slide putting together wasn't there. They still look lovely. I think Amy Shemesh probably had something to do with that, but they look a little bit different. But just so you know, these white slides then actually attempt to take this down a little bit. So what is the stuff that you can actually talk to your client about? So first of all, who really are your target audience? Here at Google, you've got so many tools and things at your disposal that you can actually put together an argument about this for your client. So you could use this type of slide as an example and sort of show them that demographic targeting, while not wrong, involves a lot of guesswork, right? If my client is, God knows what, Levi's, and I assume that my target, and I've done that with research, is, female and 18 years old, that is me assuming that. Whereas if you do it the other way around, and because we're all individuals and not necessarily all the same, you can build a target from the other way up. So it becomes much more varied and much more individual. So you could actually build this out for your client. So you could give them exactly examples of, Rob K. James or whatever else is on the slide, and show them why that would be relevant for you and why they might, and who they might be missing out on. The other thing, which is I think really, really important, is when you're talking to your clients about branding, it's often not purely about Google. If you think about all these millions of paths and ways that people interact with the net, and also how all these different media channels are interrelated. So if you think about a big TV ad might drive your search activity, your display activity, you might get people onto Facebook and other social things, there might be engagement and interactions with your content. So finding the right audience, when they're trying to find the right audience with Google, give them as many examples of how they could do this. One, and probably the easiest example, is actually search, if you're trying to find your people, because people are actually telling you what they're looking for, and if you're the right answer to that, it's a really easy connection in. But because our technology is so advanced now, and you can do really smart things like remarketing lists or just collecting lists for starters, these should all be going onto your prospect list. So as soon as someone comes from search and clicks into your website, they've already told you that they're interested. So, prospecting from that point of view, and then also really getting your clients to think about, what would my target audience search for, and do actual keyword lists around that. So if you're an 18-year-old girl and you're interested in some jeans, what do you think, these sort of things are? What would they type into the search bar? So doing it really consumer-centric from the consumer point of view, which generally branding clients love anyway. They spend a lot of time with consumers and focus groups and all of that jazz. So as soon as you can show that you really understand their consumer and know what they're doing, that's really great. Now, the context thing is actually exactly the same. But again, also in this context, finding out, the new audiences who watched something, who skipped something, and collecting those in really smart lists. So you're actually starting to be much smarter and engaging and finding the right people for your audiences. And then also, because we're now digital, when you can find the right target audience to choice, and you can actually ask them. So there's a lovely example here from SEAT, who actually asked their audience straight out what they wanted an ending to a story to be, right? So they had 3 choices, and it almost shows, if you sort of think about YouTube, a little bit of a rabbit hole. You can go a million different directions, and you can get deeper and deeper and deeper. And the amazing thing with this was, these 3 endings actually had a 30% view rate. So again, and each of these buckets then actually collected a list. So you knew, who of your target audience actually wanted this ending and this ending and this ending, and this could then, for you, actually shape the conversation that you wanted to have with them afterwards. So again, just taking it down a little bit, really think about the actual action that you can do. And then, even something like the masthead, and your clients are starting, or pretty much all clients now are using the marketing lists from mastheads, but rather than going straight into conversions, all this information that people are giving your clients is incredibly valuable in finding the right audience. What is the motivation behind someone who viewed your video versus someone who actually subscribed? Where is that difference? How's that branding story going to be really different for them? So you can actually adapt your audience according to this. By the way, do shout if you've got any questions or something. It's a sort of a very sort of, you know, I'm not quite sure if I'm seeing just blank faces or bold faces, never mind. And then another thing for finding the right clients, for clients, is brand advocates. So branding clients generally love finding brand advocates. So these people that are their fans already, that they could almost use for word of mouth and all that sort of thing. And we now have the technology to enable that. So something like YouTube Fan Finder. I mean, it's brilliant. This has never been possible before. You could never before sort of go in and actually connect with these people straight out and think about what message you need to tell them for them to then promote your brand. And also, you know, things like betas coming into this, remarketing to circles, for example. Again, engaging with your advocates in really new and interesting way. And then finally, I mean, through action, and I think we've pretty much discussed already, but this existing audience that you already have, all of this stuff enables you to be much smarter, much more coherent in your conversation with them. And also think about devices. So what's the difference from someone who's interacted with your brand on a mobile? Is there something that you actually treat them as a mobile customer? We can now remarket on mobile as well. You know, is there something that you need to bucket them into this different place and actually say, well, if someone engaged with us on mobile, even moving this a little bit further, it should keep the same. All of this stuff that I just showed you, and it needs to be adapted to your client, absolutely, depending on their motivations and who they are and all of that. But all of this stuff together will then actually give you an audience. An audience is not generally a pen portrait. It's not one person. It's not, you know, male 37 and interested in sports, but an audience is actually a group of people. And you can then almost segment that a little bit further into, you know, who has done what and how you want to communicate with them. So these are the sharper tools that you can talk to your clients about, that you can take them through and really show them how they can be much more effective in what they're doing. Yeah? Telling great stories. And going back again to Mr. Benson's deck, the challenge is to be innovative with a new technology to tell a story in a better way. AKQA Create, I think you've all seen it, probably banded around quite a few times, but it is a really good quote, I think, to really show, or almost a quote that it makes it a little bit sound like this is an issue, right? It's sort of like people are a little bit scared of this, whereas if you think about, if you take digital out of the mix, the constraint you have to really tell your brand story, you've got 30 seconds or you've got a page. Those two things is basically what you get to play with. And now you've got all this different stuff that you can chuck into the mix, be free and actually do what's properly best for your brand. You know, and these are the sort of examples of different things that we can do. So you've got Clinique doing a hangout with a consultant. You've got Dove doing a 3-minute video because they felt that 30 seconds just didn't cut it for what they had to say. You had Dumb Ways to Die, which absolutely has no limitation of a schedule, so it's as relevant as it was when it came out to as it is now. It's going to live on. People still watch it. It's still accruing views. This is all a great opportunity for your clients. And I think we often sort of make it almost sound as something negative, but it's not. You know, it should give them much more creative possibility than a 6-week TV burst. And then afterwards, you can't find it anymore. If you don't have your TV ad on YouTube, that's it. That's the impact you've made, where something like this can live on for years and people still watch it. And it also allows you or allows people to actually move through your communication at their own pace. So if you've seen, again, Dave Benson's example here about, BMW giving him that invitation to connect, he looked maybe at one video, but wasn't really in the market, so then dropped out, his choice. Maybe if he then gets remarketed at some point 2 weeks later, he will then be good and ready to actually take that next step. The interesting stuff is, though, that it's all down to him. So it's not something that you're imposing, and you're allowing your customers that freedom rather than, pushing them if they want to or not into purchase, which quite frankly, we all know it doesn't work anyway. Really well. And then, the things that people are doing of really adapting what they're doing to the platform is really exciting. I mean, what Snickers has done of actually making search a branding mechanism, and one of my sort of almost personal bugbears is that there's so many brands that are into things like comedy that nobody has done search jokes yet. You've got a tiny little, you've got all the words there. It would be so easy to do a campaign to actually make people laugh on the search page. Why people aren't doing it, I don't know, but I think it's that sort of shift of thinking and just showing your clients the opportunities. So again, jumping into something slightly more actionable, when you're talking about telling great stories to your clients, this is where all the work that's being done at the moment about digital content strategy really comes to life, right? How do I tell my branding story through things like Hero Hub Hygiene, which we all know. This is, the example about hero content and hygiene content, which I'm sure you're all really, really familiar with. The hero, obviously, here, Ron Burgundy, and making it really memorable, making it big, and then hygiene content. And I think one of my favorite things that I've had regarding hygiene content is actually, if you think as a brand that you've got a good answer to a question, that should almost be your hygiene content, right? In terms of explaining it to your clients, it works really, really well, because all of a sudden it makes sense. Do you know what? If I'm Seat and I've got absolutely nothing to say about, I don't know, flower pots, I shouldn't try to make any hygiene content around that, but really think, where would you be the answer that people are looking for? And that should be the area for your hygiene. It's a really weird example. Made that up on the spot. Doesn't work. And then hero content. I mean, Volvo, we all know them. And last couple of weeks ago, like in All Hands, we can also take things like Old Spice. They're doing great stuff, great hero content, great hygiene content, great everything. But I think it really helps when you're talking to your clients to take an example and really show them through the different steps. So hero in action, Volvo, obviously it's an amazing video, it's an amazing campaign, but it didn't just come from nothing. And I think people and your clients and your brands need to understand that it actually takes time to build a great brand. Even on YouTube, it takes time to build a great brand. And Volvo, has got all these different videos, and they're all great, and they've started, and they've re-engaged with people that they're connected with before. So it's something that builds over time. And I think sometimes showing people that, and Old Spice is an equally good example of that. I mean, they've done great advertising over time. That's why they're so front of mind. It's not just one great video that they sort of put out on the net by mistake. And they're also really planned for hero and hygiene content. So if you watch that amazing hero content, Jean-Claude Van Damme, the hygiene content is in the suggested links. So you can go and actually go from one to the other, which makes a lot of sense, because they want people to actually see both. And even more, this is a chart. And it's actually helped to stimulate content within search. So I don't know how many people were really interested in dynamic steering before Jean-Claude, but probably not that many. So, and because they knew that great hero content is going to do a great uplift in search queries, you need to have your hygiene content there. So if someone then searches for what you actually want them to search for, because quite frankly, Volvo is not really interested in promoting Jean-Claude Van Damme, they want people to get interested in their trucks. They knew that they needed to be ready and have that hygiene content ready at the go when alongside their hero content, and actually make them work together. And then you've got parodies. I mean, stuff like that. This is all people doing a branding job for Volvo. And I don't know, has anybody, he's going to kill me for this, but has anybody seen Dennis Krushel's one? Yeah, some of you? So he actually did Neck and Nominate, which I'm sure you're all quite familiar with, on his couch with some sort of like fake legs that he built with his girlfriend and sort of shoes, so it looks like he was doing the splits, and he did a parody, Neck and Nominate, of the Volvo trucks. I mean, brilliant. Quite funny. Ask him, like, if you're not friends on Facebook with him or something, ask him, and it looks absolutely ridiculous. But it's really, really good. But this is exactly what great content like that can make, even us Googlers do. Now, this is generally the pushback that we get from clients, right? You show them Volvo, you show them Old Spice, and they go, yeah, but we are no Volvo, no, not Old Spice, you know, we are something else. Quite frankly, Old Spice used to be, it's body wash. It's not a sexy product. It's literally not. It used to be like an old man's body wash, whereas dynamic steering before, like any other content around dynamic steering, couple of years ago was completely dull and not there. So I think that sort of excuse that clients often use, like, oh yeah, our product doesn't really work with that, is not really there anyway. But because, and this is obviously a nice little cartoon for virality, because you can't predict what's going to happen, you do have options though. If you've got great hero content, you're going to have to promote it. And this is, I think, the link. After having taken a client through a brand story like Volvo, like Old Spice, pick one that worked really well for your category. And once they really understood that, you can show them how with paid media they can really increase their chances of winning in the space. And the paid media story doesn't feel like you're just trying to ram formats down their throat, but it actually is there for a reason, right, of what you're trying to do. So things like running mastheads, collecting those lists, using remarketing to talk to your clients again and again, and also, you know, just show that journey. So this is where you can talk to them about building that story for consumers once they've got the content and once they really get what this is all about. Also, a really smart one is actually, you know, RLSA, increasing your bids because someone has interacted with one of your contents as well. And quite frankly, for us, this is a little bit where the money comes in, but you're pitching the money for a really good reason. And hopefully, if your clients buy into the front bit, they'll really understand it. And if you think about the whole construct and how it works like a conversation. So your first ad or your first connection with a customer, you're basically saying, hello, are you interested in this? You know, whatever it is, here's my product. If they say no, you can ask them again. So are you interested in this again? Or you actually give them something more. If they keep saying, no, I'm really not interested, you know, go away, I'm really not interested, please frequency cap at some point, and actually just put them, don't bin them as in throw it away, but make sure that you know that this group of consumers at the moment are really not interested in what it is. However, this is sort of almost how you can structure your messaging to your consumer. If they then, after the second or third time, or every many times you've decided is relevant, say, yes, actually now I am, give them a little bit more. Drive them through your story. If, when you told them more, they say, no, I'm not interested anymore, give them an alternative. If they say yes again, and they're basically telling you, yes, yes, I really quite like this, give them more again. Then you can ask them again loads of times. If they're still not really jumping onto it, put them into a slightly different bucket, which is, and this is, by the way, I've just name drop everybody who's done the slides. This is Joris, who's come up with this. And for some reason, you're putting them in the fridge, which I'm not quite sure what the reference is, but, keep them warm, put them on ice. Not quite sure, but here you go. If they keep on wanting more, then you put them onto your call to action and they become your little treasure chest clients. But telling a great story, this is how you tell a story. Imagine how you're having a conversation in real life, how you're interacting with yourselves is really, really important. And basically thinking about your advertising with this, and a lot of this is about lists and putting your clients into buckets and messaging strategy, but it keeps you from every time when you are in contact with the consumer going, hello, my name is, if you think about that. And the next time you connect with them, you go again, hello, my name is. And this is how you get around this. Does that make sense? Yeah.
From Google,
yeah.
From search tool into video into display.
So
a few searches that they, probably come to my site, you follow the segment.
Yeah.
I have a list now, then I show you an ad on YouTube, and then I tell you a story on the GDN while you're looking at our travel sites or whatever it is.
Yeah. So just to repeat the question for the one person on VC. The question was if we've got any good examples for this. And actually, I've seen one, which is Parlophone, so a music launch, and Gabby Applin. So Gabby Applin, I don't know if you know her, I'd never heard of her, but she's like some new music star. And they've created 3 different buckets for their customers. So the first one was people who have watched one of her videos, and their messaging to those people were, yeah, you're kind of interested. The next level up was someone who was a fan, and a fan was someone who had done 3 different actions. That might be watched 3 videos of hers, different videos, or it might have been shared one of her videos. So depending on the action, 3 different actions, you moved into that middle bucket. And then the last bucket they had were super fans. Super fans were then basically people who did everything, loved her, followed her, subscribed to her channel, all of that sort of stuff. And then they had a really smart messaging strategy on the back of that. So if you were classed as a super fan, you would get things like background, behind the scenes videos, long form content where you're actually going, you're really into her. You probably want to sit through 20 minutes of interview and all of this sort of stuff. As a normal fan, you would get, a little bit more of this kind of stuff, but probably not to the extent. And as someone who had watched a video, they would try to show you different videos of hers. So, and it works for every different type of client. It doesn't necessarily need to be, if you think about it as someone, as a car, someone who, I don't know, who just watched a video might be someone, who's in the market or sort of researching at the moment, and whatever action, you could put it into research phase, and people who are actually brand advocates. For some reason, there are loads of car nuts out there that don't even want to buy one, but they want all the information. And these are the types of things that you can probably build out. Does that answer?
It does answer. I think it'd be interesting to see more examples of cross-channel. For example, people that use search. I mean, the easiest way of using this is, you drive traffic search and then you do remarketing.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see, right, you've driven traffic to search for a particular category, then you have sold them on, for example, on flights, you have sold them on hotel, and you have sold them on, taxi journey.
Yes, please. Can someone do that? That would be amazing.
We share this with, it'd be great for us to go and talk to the agencies about it.
Absolutely. So I mean, in terms of actual examples that have happened, so far, I don't think nobody is doing this brilliantly well yet. So this is really, I mean, we'd love any of your clients to be the first ones to do this properly. And you know, if you, this is something that is so important for, also for CSI, that if you need any support, or you think, actually my client, I think they would be really interested in doing something like this, please let us know, because we can try to support you, because we'd love case studies like that, to really make that happen. We don't at the moment, so the only one that I know is Gabby Applin, where it properly worked, but their results were amazing, really, really good. I mean, they had, you know, incredible view-through rates of, like, you know, 3-minute videos for the fans. I mean, amazing. So it does work, and it's actually cost-effective for them. That wasn't, you know, Gabby Applin wasn't a campaign that sort of was loads and loads of money, you know, and they could have done it a lot bigger. But cool. Right, building stronger relationships. And again, building stronger relationships is also about, and we said it before, it's about, don't say hello every time, and it's all about recognizing your customers, right? If you recognize your customers, you can re-engage with them much faster and more effectively, because you've already started that conversation, and you don't have to start from scratch every time. And digital has really changed the way that we can do that, right? There's no other medium at the moment that can actually enable you to do that. And that's a massive USP for us, and it's something really that we and our clients should get really excited about. And, you know, if you want, and the way that relationships are built, and I know Dave Benson sort of uses a C.S. Lewis quote here, so saying, like, friendship basically happens when someone says to you, what, you as well? You know, I thought I was the only one. I mean, that is how you connect in real life, and translating that type of connection through shared values, shared passions, is great. And someone who does that really well here is Cadbury's and baking. I mean, all they're saying is they're realizing that themselves and their consumers have shared interests. They have shared passions. That's about, you know, something that they can connect on. Cadbury's couldn't connect on, I don't know, dynamic steering. Absolutely not. It's, you know, it's rubbish. But really finding out what it is, where that shared passion is, that you can use. And then the other way, and this is almost like, you know, this has been around for ages, sponsorships. This is Ocado saying, hey, you like food, we like food. Easy, really easy, but it makes that connection. It makes a connection that is really, really different from just saying, hello, shop, you know, get your groceries for me. Because all of a sudden you've got much more credibility, because you go like, hey, we kind of like the same things. I probably trust you more than someone else to have the food that I really want. And then it's recognition. And this is all remarketing, but if you think about it, and I'm not sure, you might have seen Dave already present this, but that calculation in the end of it. But this is almost a counter argument to the normal reach and frequency planning that your clients do. You know, and it makes it much more affordable, because reach and frequency planning is basically you're going this amount of the population this many times, but you never knew who you actually reached. Whereas this way, and this is the sort of calculation that Dave did on the TV side. If you're buying cheapest chips, daytime telly for, you know, 15 quid, cost per 1,000, only 10% of these people will probably be in the market for whatever you're trying to tell them. So your effective CPM is 10 times that. So you're ending up at 150 pounds CPM. But then, because the next time you talk to them, you have no idea who you talked to before or not. So you're almost doubling your price again, because it's almost an argument of, you know, I reached, you know, half of the people actually did an action, but I don't know which half. So again, the next time you're re-engaging with your consumer, you lose all knowledge. You have no idea who you spoke to before. Whereas if you think about it on YouTube, it's more expensive. It is more expensive because it's more targeted, right? Your first engagement, but it's actually knowledgeable. So you know that you're reaching the right people. And then the second one, you don't you know, your CPM isn't 10 times more, because you know that they're in the market. You don't need to guess that. And then the third one, also, you know who you talked to before. So you're not increasing your prices. And this is a very simplistic way of doing it. But I think people need to understand that while an informed choice like that might be a little bit higher entry cost, in the end, the longer you're doing it, the smarter you're getting. This is not something for like one thing that you're going to do. Keep on learning. Get to know the people that you're trying to reach. Campaign after campaign after campaign, build that knowledge up with them. And then also moving people down the funnel faster. So digital actually allows you to connect branding and conversion, if you want to call it that way. And you can actually have a call to action. Any other branding activity, that's always been really difficult. So digital is the one medium where branding and conversion and branding and performance, if you want to do it, they actually lie really closely together. And there's not a branding client, I think, that will go, I'm absolutely not interested in performance. And probably performance people do care a little bit about branding because it goes hand in hand. But that connection is much faster, much quicker. So taking it down a level, and again, into your clients, show them that you know what works. So we've got such great tools here, like you know, things like Brand Doctor, and help them analyze this. If you go into a client and actually help them analyze all the stuff for them, I mean, they're going to love you for it as branding people. Like, look at who, you know, you can talk to, and look how we can build this relationship over time. And then also know that your content will actually live on. So these are different social media platforms, and you can see here that YouTube shelf life is a lot longer than anything else. If you put a post on Facebook, quite frankly, it'll be there for 1 second and then it's gone. Whereas at YouTube, you do have that lag, and people share the stuff much more. So it does stay in people's consciousness. You know, if you, again, the example that we had before of, what was it? I don't know, how many dumb ways to die, or just dumb ways to die? You know, that still lives on. That still does a great branding job. Pardon? Oh, this is a good question. The 4E00. I actually don't know. But I'll find out and I'll send it in the notes afterwards, because I didn't have the source for it. But I think, like, over time, like, I think this is number of views on the bottom, so it just sort of shows how it develops over time. And then when you're looking at what content really adds also that long-term value that you can go into beyond your hero, you know, what kind of things, like, you know, and it can be things like responsive, real-time, interactive stuff. Joining up with partners is a great way to actually keep a relationship going over time. People are doing episodic content, you know, really embracing YouTube and what it can be. So all this content can really add the value to what you're doing. So in a weird way, and I know we did exactly this from yours before, where you had all your people either in the bin, the fridge freezer, or the little treasure chest. When it comes to building relationships, this then actually becomes, you know, the people that you've put in the bin, they weren't interested in what you had to say. If you've got something completely new, let them know, because they might be interested in something new. But the message to them would be, hey, we've got something new. Whereas the fridge freezer people, they kind of were interested. Tell them what the difference is. Tell them why they should be interested now, rather than what they didn't in the end up converting on. Your treasure chest people also, I mean, why should they either buy or be interested in this one as well? It's different. Sorry, this is my calendar. There you go. But why they should be interested in this as well? And I think it's really powerful to almost take your clients through either a fictional example or looking at one of their past campaigns and just sort of showing them what they could have done. So this is, first of all, was that a little bit helpful, and did that put stuff into context a little bit? Yes? Brilliant. I think, and you know, we were having quite a lot of chats about this because it's obviously it's a really big topic, and building better brands is definitely a better way to build brands. I need to say it right, otherwise my Dave cry. But it is here to stay, and we are hoping that over time we can actually, you know, build on that story more and more. And for me, there's definitely even a lower view, which then comes down to looking at, you know, how would this be like for automotive, or how would this be like for retail clients, or even underneath that, then how would that work for your client that you're actually working on? But I hope also, and you know, in our pitches to our clients, if we really take them on that journey with us and really make them understand where we're coming from, and that digital media technology is changing the game, and we can help them with that. We can't sort it out for them. We're not there to sort of actually do it for them, but we can definitely help them in a lot of the different things to bring that down. And you know, for example, tomorrow in Brand Base, we're going to go through Lindsay's example, and she actually used the structure in a client pitch to great success. And this is sort of the stuff, I think it helps your conversation. It just structures it really easily. So I'm hoping we got lots of good activity from it and found this helpful. Any questions? Comments? Yes, Joe Baker.
Thank you for doing that. I would just want to say the feedback that we've been getting from the agencies that we've been saying to me kind of masses is that
Yeah.
this was a great framework, but they need much more kind of more the house to kind of tell the data story and not the
Yeah.
technology story. And I think what we've got there is a good start to kind of
Yeah.
building that stuff out, because each one of those pillars is a session workshop in itself.
Yeah.
And I think building those stories out for all of that is absolutely the right thing to do.
Absolutely. So, person on VC. Just the comment was that each of these pillars is almost a session or a story in itself. And what I don't want you to think either, this training is not, this is not the be all and end all of it. This is going to be a process. And there's so many work streams going on at the moment to actually try to make this into sessions, workshops,